Grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And it's Tuesday, November 7th. We'll be taking a look at some NHL today because there's not much else going on. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Give me those thummy thumbs. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Here with Tim BUELL, hockey, NHL, DFS extraordinaire, as well as on top of obviously NFL stuff, everything else that we offer here on RotoGrinders. Tim, this is going to be my fifth NHL DFS slate that I've played a couple of these, and I like it. I like NHL DFS. It's
a lot of fun.
I put on the notifications on SofaScore. I put the notifications on SofaScore, and it's like the thing that I have to get used to, Tim, in hockey, is that it's not it. Okay, so it plays out kind of like soccer, but there's so much more scoring in NHL that, like, every goal doesn't matter. Like it's like, third line from the Islanders gets a goal, like you don't even move anywhere. It's like there's some goals, and also you can't get them all in one lineup. So it's like, oh, this team scored 4, that team scored 5, this team scored 4, that team scored 5. It's like as long as you got enough, you don't need everything. In soccer, like I'll be playing the Champions League slate for 3:00 this afternoon, 6-game soccer slate. Like if one guy scores 2 goals, like you need him. Like there's no ands, ifs, or buts. They're only going to be like maybe on a Champions League slate of 6 games, maybe it's a higher scoring slate, 17, 18 total goals, 20 total goals.
Yeah, right.
But like in a 10-game NHL slate, it's going to be like 60 goals. Like you don't need them all.
Yeah. Hockey's not like that. So yeah, I mean, basically in hockey, you can always X out the fourth line, and then there are some third lines that are very, very viable that also get you exposure to some of the power plays. But really, not like you said, not every goal matters. It's not like. And I think there's a lot of ownership inefficiencies in NHL that you don't get in the other major sports anymore. Like way fewer, sim bros in NHL. There's fewer people like that. So it's a soft. I think from a DFS game perspective, it's still one of the softest games you can play.
From a heuristic perspective, what would you describe as one of the primary ownership inefficiencies? Is it, I mean, we're going to be taking a look at this 10-game slate, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you from a strategic standpoint, because this is less about covering the slate and more let's learn how to play NHL DFS well. On the larger slates, if I equate this to MLB, or even if I equate it to soccer, right? On the 6-game Champions League slate coming up in soccer, like I'm probably playing like no one from like the biggest underdog on the slate. It's quite possible that out of the 6 games, there are like 3 or 4 big favorites. And I'm primarily just basically playing those teams, just depending on who I'm playing on because obviously you got, probably 5, 6 attackers to choose from on each team. Mm-hmm. And there's so many, between 3 or 4 teams that have high implied goal totals. Like I'm probably not screwing around with the team that's only going to have 30% possession, and maybe they score a counter goal, but I don't care about that guy's 14 points because I could find those points elsewhere. Does that kind of apply to like we have a 10-game slate? I could understand on the 4-game slates where it's like, okay, everyone is viable because there's only so many games. Mm-hmm. But on like these types of slates, like if San Jose is a humongous underdog, some of these really bad teams.
We'll talk about San Jose. Trust me, we're going to be talking.
But the point is that should, even though some of the projections, some of these teams that are like hefty underdogs that may have good like point per dollar value, is it more likely on a larger slate that I'm still my focus is on like the higher implied team total favorite teams that if I wanted to as a heuristic, if I just went into like the stack section and just like, yeah, I'm not playing anyone on these like 8 teams. Like you're probably you're not probably losing anything.
It kind of reminds me of baseball, right? Like you're not necessarily going to be playing like bottom of the order of some really horrible offensive team, right? Like it's kind of very similar to that. It's similar to that in hockey. I don't know enough about soccer to really make a comment about soccer. I don't play enough DFS soccer, but I would say like what we're beginning to notice in Discord and talking to other people that play a lot of NHL DFS is kind of ownership inefficiencies when it comes to goalie. There seems to be, they changed their scoring system a couple years ago, and it really goes more towards heavy volume versus chasing the win. Okay, it used to be that the win was worth more. Now you want saves more than you want the win. Okay, like obviously the win is good, right? But you want volume, and a lot of times, like last night, I'll give you an example. 4-game slate. Sergei Bobrovsky was 10% owned at 8,400, which is a lot to pay for a goalie, and he was horrible. It's like you're paying a premium for the heavy money line favorite, but you have to think about if your team is the heavy money line favorite, the other team's not going to have the puck, so they're not going to be shooting the puck. Gradually, we're starting to see the field catch up a little bit and become a little bit more sharp about not chasing the most expensive goalie. But that's still something that I think that is underutilized in large field GPP, is to really just go for lower owned, cheaper options that have massive ceilings, even if they don't have very good win equity. Okay, like that's what you want. You want to save at goalie and hope that he ends up getting like 42 saves, even if he goes up 3 goals. It's not a big deal. Okay, it's better to pay that $7K than it is to pay the 8,400 or whatever it is. That's the big thing. That's the big thing that I've noticed is goalies. Okay, like there's going to be chalk on the slate when it comes to skaters, but goalie I think is where you really have to like fine tune your ownership and understand like what the field's going to do and where you want to get leverage. A couple nights ago, I finished, I think it was 5th place in the 444, and I got a -9 from my goalie. Okay, so I probably would have won the 444 for 15K had I played any other goalie, but I decided to take the 4% Philip Gustafson over the 27% Sorokin. Okay, obviously it didn't work out. Okay, but I would take that 4%, right, every time over the 27% Sorokin. And it didn't work out for me that time, but had Gustafson just had a normal game, I would have won. Instead he had -9. So, and I still got 5th. But that's like understanding what goalie chalk is and trying to get leverage, because goalies, they're not like pitchers in baseball. There's not like a huge gap in talent. Okay, it's not like baseball where you have a massive gap between Jacob deGrom and name a 7K pitcher. Okay, there's a massive talent gap. There isn't that kind of talent gap when it comes to goalies.
We've already learned this in soccer. I mean, soccer. I mean, I come from soccer, and the inefficiency of goalkeeper in soccer doesn't exist because soccer people already know this. So, like the high price keeper, you play Ederson today for Man City as God knows how big of a favorite. Like he's not going to see many saves, and if he gives up 1 goal, you're screwed, right? Because he's not going to get the clean sheet. He's not going to like. It's so much better to like find that home underdog, especially in soccer where home field matters a lot more. Like that home dog keeper, like typically those are the popular, that $4,300 keeper. Another aspect I wanted to ask you, Tim, since you're on, that I've noticed, and this is I'm putting together theories, Tim, right? Because I'm looking at sharp lineups, I'm seeing how things play out. So some of this stuff may just be small sample size. in soccer, and because I'm relating it to soccer. Soccer, the way that the positions work in soccer are you have to play 2 forward, on DraftKings at least, 2 forwards, 2 midfielders, 2 defenders, a goalkeeper, and a utility spot. That could be anyone. Obviously, any outfield player, not a second goalkeeper. The most important spots in your lineup, it's very similar like tight end in NFL, are the defender spots. Because most defenders in soccer don't score goals, right? Because, I mean, they're typically further back. They typically are defending more than attacking. Now, we have attacking fullbacks that do come up and they do cross the ball and stuff. We have center backs that do score goals on headers and stuff. But in order to win large field GPPs or GPPs in general, the place where you could separate yourself the most is in the defender spot, because on a 6-game Champions League slate, there are going to be tons of goals at the forward position. So if you pay $9K for a forward and they give you 18 points, you could have probably found a $5,500 forward that also scored a goal and had a couple of shots and gave you 18 points also. Now, finding those are hard because they're obviously the more expensive ones are more likely to score goals, but they're going to be enough goals that as long as you play 2 reasonable forwards, you have goals there. Defenders, it's kind of hard to find 20 points at defender in soccer. So the ones that are actually capable of putting up those scores are so much more valuable, because you'll see on soccer slates where the wrong way to build most of the time is heavy up top, low on the bottom. So in soccer, if you're going to play large field GPP and go, I'm going to play the most expensive forwards and the best team on the slate, and my 2 defender spots are going to be 2 $2,600 garbage guys, like a lot of times you're going to get like 2 or 3 points out of those slots. And even if you score multiple goals in the other spots, it's like, well, everyone needs to roster 2 defenders. You're choosing to take on 2 guys that like are going to score pretty much are rarely ever going to score double digits. But there are plenty of guys that you're going to have to pay up a little for that have the actual ability to give you 15, 20 points, even without a goal, maybe with an assist. And I get the sense, this is only because of my experience in soccer, that in the slates that I've played recently, that I've prioritized, because Tim, to be clear, I'm playing the larger field stuff, like the $20 today. I'll be playing like 15 lineups into it. Or the poke check, the $5 poke check. I'm playing 30 lineups, so 15 lineups into each of those. So, like, I'm prioritizing like guys like Josie and Dobson and Cole McCarr, or like of course I'm just learning the names and everything. I'm prioritizing the defensemen that, especially on the larger slates, where it's like, if I could find the 2 defensemen that get me 15, 20 points each, like, I don't mind having the second line from some team. And if they give me, if 2 goals get scored on that line, like, what do I care what Carolina does? What do I care what some other, like if the popular team scores, it's like, yeah, but good luck getting 35 points out of your defender spots. Is my thinking off, or am I prioritizing too much? Because obviously, if I'm going to be playing like 5K, even these $3,800 defensemen that are playing on like a good power play line, like, obviously I'm not playing, I'm not getting the Colorado PP1 with, I'm not getting any of these. I can't get Buffalo's PP1, probably can't get Pittsburgh's PP1, right? Even
Right.
like Kucherov and Kaprizov, like, I'm playing a lot of, like, my lines are like you go down to like the Rangers one, or like something in that zone, like the Jets. I'm playing like Sheffley and Ellers and kind of those types of guys.
It's a really good stack, by the way. I love Winnipeg today. Just FYI. But I would say that your thesis is a little bit small sample.
Okay.
I think that it's very slate dependent. There are times, I'm not saying necessarily today, but there are times where I would say that there are really, really strong, good cheap value defensemen, right? That have offensive upside. I think that there are also times where there are stacks between your forwards that are in such good spots and aren't necessarily going to be like the highest owned, that I'm still going to prioritize spending up at the wing center position and pay down at defenseman. You can't. I don't like to put. I don't want to make that a golden rule. I think your theory is a little bit too small sample. I
Okay.
think if you played more NHL DFS throughout the season, which I hope you do because I think you'll love it, is that you'll find that it's really slate dependent.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's very similar to soccer because like I said, there are going to be slates where all the expensive defenders are really not in good spots, and they
Right.
probably have lower ceilings. And then in those slates, it's actually more likely that instead of paying like in NHL, it's like instead of paying $4K for a defender, they're not worth much more than the $2,800 guys anyway. So just plug in some 28 because you don't think any defender is really going to put up that big of a score. And if someone does, it's going to be some random dude for some whatever reason, and they're going to be $2,800 anyway. So that exists trust me, that exists in soccer as well. You get these slates where it's like these $4,700 defenders are like, why am I paying an extra $1,500 for like an extra 1.5 point floor? I'd rather just use that to get like Kylian Mbappe and Antoine Griezmann up top and have a Man City stack because like I don't think any defender is going to put up that much. And could be Travis has a question in the YouTube chat. I found when running simulations, you still get third and fourth liners. And I also noticed that when running like lineup HQ based on mean projections, I take them. He says that he takes them out of the player pool unless correlated on the power play line. Tim, is this a leak in my game?
I would probably take fourth liners out unless they have some kind of power play exposure. Third liners are fine. There are some very, very strong, affordable third lines that are very, very strong and usually quite cheap. So I think keeping third liners in your pool is completely fine, pretty much on any slate. Fourth liners, unless they're like randomly on PP1, which is rare, but it does happen, and maybe on PP2, but they got to be in a really good spot because fourth liners tend to only play like 10 to 12 minutes, which is not great. So I think Xing out fourth liners, unless they're on the PP, would be a good strategy.
So for today's slate, you mentioned about San Jose, right? So Rip and Sippin in chat says, can't wait to hear what Tim says about the Sharks. I'm on that game. I'm just sorting my point per dollar here in the lineup HQ for our current projections. And you see Philly. I mean, this is obviously not the Philly one line, but I'm seeing a lot of Philadelphia and San Jose on both sides. I mean, obviously these are mean projections. So the mean in and of itself doesn't mean as much as, the ceiling. What do you have to say about the last essentially it's the last game on the slate?
So San Jose is historically bad. I mean, they're going to go down as one of the worst teams ever. Everyone projected them to be absolutely horrible, but they're even worse than that. They've given up 10 goals in back-to-back games, Blender. Think about that.
10 goals, not combined. 10 goals.
10 goals back-to-back.
Back.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the worst teams ever. I think we're going to see something truly historic in terms of their record. They're 0-10-1 to start the season, which I mean, it's amazing what we're seeing. Obviously, eventually they'll win a couple games, but they're gonna have to get pretty lucky to do so. I've loaded up against them the last two slates and done unbelievably well. The field has not been high enough against them, in my opinion, but I think now everyone's caught on. And I think that Philly only has, I say only because there's some better spots. Philly has a 3.8 total, which is really good, right? But it's not. I mean, so does Pittsburgh, so does Colorado, so does Carolina, right? So, there are other teams that have similar totals. This isn't like you know, we kind of want to like look at this like they're playing at Coors Field, but hockey doesn't really work like that. I mean, Philadelphia could score 4 goals, and that's not going to be enough. Like if you don't get it from the right guys, if it's spread out, you're not going to win a GPP that way. And if they're going to be highly owned on a 10-game slate, maybe they're worth a fade. But I mean, they are so bad in every metric. It's a tough fade. And you can get some of these guys cheap because DK just is not pricing them up. But I think that they're going to be extremely popular.
I mean, look at these prices. I mean, here's one thing I need to wrap my head around, Tim. Say these are the nuances of hockey, very similar to the nuances of soccer, right? When people come to me for a soccer take for like Man City today, like if Haaland doesn't start today, I'm mentioning today's slate. If Haaland doesn't start, like someone like Bernardo Silva plays in a different role, like he's worth way more in the new role in the more attacking role versus in the defensive role that he played in the past. And if you don't look at the formation, you'd never be able to tell the difference. The thing that screws me up is like, I take a look at Philly's lines, right? Now, obviously I'm going a lot by the projection, so I'm just letting projections tell it. But like line 1 is Forrester, Atkinson, Lawton. But like their most expensive player is on their third line, even though he plays in the power play 1 unit. So like, it always kind of screws me up because it's like Konechny or whatever, however you pronounce his name.
Konechny.
Right. Like,
yep.
Well, he has the highest raw projection, but he's on the third line, but he will be on the power play when they have a power play. So like pairing up these people, because like I would look at this and go, why aren't I playing Forster at 2,900? That seems like way too cheap for a guy on the first line for a team that's going to destroy the other team. But if you go by like projections, it may give you like it feels weird to have like the power play 1 unit, which exists from 1 guy from line 1 and 2 guys from line 3. And then if they don't get a power play, if they're an even strength, like they're not together. Like it always feels weird, like pairing those things together.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. So not every team plays their first, second, third, fourth line the same way. Okay. Like Philadelphia really spreads out their even strength time on ice. Okay. Not every team is like that though. But with Philly, they play a lot of their lines very similarly. So I wouldn't be too concerned about saying, oh, I'd rather play guys on line 1 versus guys on line 3. I can tell you that line 3 is way better straight up than line 1 for Philly. Okay. It's not even close.
So hold on. What you're saying is that like the way that Philly does their lines is that if there was a pie of time, of even strength time, line 1, 2, and 3 are essentially getting about the same amount of time. Line 4, it really isn't, but line 1, 2, it's very similar to the attitude in NBA where people are like, well, this guy isn't starting. It's like, but he's still going to play 30 minutes. Like, doesn't matter that he's not in the starting unit. So there are some teams that, like, I know, like Carolina, they spread that out also?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are some teams that you see that it feels like they have like 17 people on the ice because you see the goals come in and go, who's playing in this game? And then there are some teams where if a goal gets scored, it's like, dude, it's probably one of these like 4 guys and that's it. Right. I obviously the projections will take this into account.
Yeah, that's all that's all part of the projection.
Okay, so I shouldn't be concerned if I'm running lineups in lineup HQ and I'm like, oh, I'm getting if I got a lot of line 3 from Philly, I shouldn't treat them as like, oh, I'm getting the third option from Philly. It's like, no, I'm just getting one of the 3. Like if I got line 1, line 2, or line 3, I should all treat them. And even though it says 3,
right,
or it says 1, for Philly, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, even strength time on ice is all baked into the projection, so it really means essentially nothing. I would only be worried about getting a ton of Philly 3 if they're going to end up being super highly owned, right?
Right.
And that's a different question. But I wouldn't be worried like, oh, I'm worried about time on ice. No, that's already baked in. That's already baked in.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I've been looking at I'm getting the third line, I'm getting the second line, and I'm looking going, should I just be getting line one for as many teams as possible? And then you obviously are saying it's like, oh, well, these guys are getting the same amount. Like ice time matters, not like the line that they're on.
Right. Exactly.
Mr. Girk says hockey is a strange sport. The very best players might only play 30% of the game.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
So
like
anything
you look at Nathan McKinnon, he's probably going to play like, I don't know, 25 minutes tonight. That's not even half the game. Right. Like, and he's going to be probably has a very good chance of being the top raw point scorer on the slate. You know, like hockey is a very strange sport in that capacity. But I think it's more fun, I think, in terms of game theory and putting the puzzle pieces together, which you and I both love to do, right? But yeah, that comment is definitely correct.
Right. We don't have ownership out as of yet. But what games are you, because you mentioned that, okay, Philly highly owned. So what, you mentioned the Jets. So what other teams on this large slate are you looking to target more, at least for you?
Yeah. So,
because understand, Tim, like I can't make assessments on under on over on without any ownership because I don't know what, like all I noticed was like, I think the Flyers are going to be very I think that was obvious. Like I look and I go,
yeah.
oh, they're facing the Sharks. Yeah, I think the Phil and the Cheap. So like I think they're going to be owned. But I go in and I'm not sure until I see the ownership what people are really going to do. So like
right.
what are
and
some spots?
I'm not either, to be honest with you. But I have a very, very strong hunch that Colorado is going to be very highly owned. Like going high end,
but they're expensive.
Yeah, but you can go. But that's the thing, Blender. We just talked about all those cheap Philly guys. So you can go high end Colorado, and then you can go cheapy Philly. It's like I think that's going to be a very, very popular way to go tonight. Like you can go McKinnon, Rantanen, who are the two top players on the Avs, and then you can go Morgan Frost for 2,900, who plays on the first power play unit on Philly, right? And then you could probably pair him with somebody else like Travis Sanheim, who quarterbacks the power play for Philadelphia. So that's going to be a very, very popular strategy in my opinion.
Is the Avalanche favored like this because the Devils have a bunch of injuries?
Yeah, well, Colorado is one of the best teams in hockey, but
because I'm looking at their lineup and I'm like, where's Hughes?
Yeah, Hughes is out and Nico Hischier is out, so both of their top centers are out. So that's going to spell trouble for them. Colorado should win this game pretty easily. I don't know what the money line is, but I'd imagine it's pretty high. But yeah, so New Jersey's missing two of their top centers, so that's Colorado's going to be in a really good spot. So like you mentioned Cale Makar as like a top end defender. You're absolutely correct. One of, if not the best offensive defenseman in all of hockey. He should be probably pretty popular. So
expensive, very expensive, 7,500.
He's expensive, but I mean that's he can easily pay off that price.
How about Pittsburgh? I mean, isn't Pittsburgh in a good spot against Anaheim?
Anaheim is, I think, a little bit better. They're a lot better than they have been in the last couple of years. That's definitely true. Also, playing on the road, it matters too. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Pittsburgh, especially if they're going to come in low owned, is completely fine. I think what I'm seeing right now is like I like Winnipeg quite a bit. I want to check out their prices because I think they kind of fall in that mid-range type build. Like a lot of people want to spend up and then down, right? Stars and scrubs. Whereas I think Winnipeg is going to be in that mid-range. And I think a lot of people will stay away from them. I think they're in a really strong spot. I think they're going to be relatively low owned. I think Tampa Bay might go a little overlooked. I also think that there's some interest. I have some interest in Montreal too, just because Tampa Bay's got a real. They're missing the best goalie in the world. Tampa Bay is. Tampa Bay's not the juggernaut that they once were. So I think Montreal might have some contrarian appeal for me in large field GPPs.
And also, you can never go wrong playing a low-owned Kucherov.
Exactly. I mean, you're absolutely right.
I mean, I come from. I mean, my attitude in any sport is that the low-owned players I want to play are the really good players in supposed bad matchups, or they just happen to be like the sixth best player because of other people because of price. So, like in NBA, when like, oh, everyone's playing Giannis, well, I'm going to play 4% on Embiid, right? Oh,
Yeah.
in baseball, everyone's playing, this pitcher, and I'm playing like another great pitcher that just happens to be 4% owned because he's a little overpriced and no one wants to because they're playing other people. So that's kind of what I look at. Coming from the chat, we have a lot of people, Tim, here that because there's no NBA today that are trying out NHL, maybe even for the first time, right? Jason Farm says, no NBA. I know nothing about NHL, but I'm playing some, so hopefully this video helps. And Mike B asks, does hockey have good one-offs or is everything correlated? I lean towards...
You can definitely do one-offs. Definitely. Baseball, in terms of, hockey in terms of construction, reminds me a lot of baseball. So I wouldn't want to do like a one-off of Nate McKinnon because he's going to be super chalk. But like if you wanted to do a one-off of Kucherov because I don't think he's going to be that chalky, I think that's a way better play as a one-off.
But
just like you wouldn't one-off Aaron Judge, right? Like
but he's chalky inside of a Yankees stack.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's a game theory thing. I think this is more of a beginner's question of like you're not building a lineup, Tim, with like 8 individual players from 8 different teams.
Right.
You're primarily playing like 3 or 4 guys from 2 different teams in your lineup.
Yeah.
It's just that what do you have as the like a one-off in a 4-3-1 or in a 3-3-1-1 like that would be the one-offs, but you're not trying to make this on a 10-game slate going, can I find the 8 top scorers and try to get like the exact, just like in baseball, you find the team that scores 12 runs and take 5 of them. And you're probably going to do well.
You can't find the 10 home runs in baseball individually, right?
Right.
You have to make stacks.
So anything else that people should know in general about this slate at hand? I know that we're going to have, content coming out today, right? We got, the expert survey. We got people looking. It's not, you could use projections. Obviously I will, but you guys do actual like written NHL content and stuff.
We got
RotoGrinders Premium.
We got expert survey. We have the slate summary by Taylor Ezel, who won the 333 for 10K last night. He's super sharp DFS mind, super sharp in hockey. We got Dane Forden. He's head of our projections. And you got to go to our Discord channel. You have to go to Discord because there is news in hockey. And you have to be paying attention. It's not as big as basketball in terms of news, but it does happen. Like guys do get ruled out last second, and you have to be paying attention.
Or figuring out which goalkeeper is going to start.
Yeah, a lot of times we might not know until 30 minutes before game time. So you can't just set your lineup and leave. Like you have to be paying attention to Discord.
Right, and our Discord for NHL is, you could even ask dumb questions. You see me in there. Sometimes I ask stupid questions. I'm putting it in quotes because like you'll post something like, this team has changed their lines. And like my first question, like the second day was like, does that get updated in lineup HQ? Like, and Dane goes, yeah, that'll all, if you do the stacks, you don't have to worry about that. But there are some times where it's like in the middle of a slate where it's like the 9 p.m. game and the slate is already locked 30 minutes in. I get a message I see in the Discord. Oh, the Canadians have moved this guy to the third line. And then I look and I'm like, well, I have tons of Canadians. Right. So I have to go into my lineups and go, do I want to move these guys so they are more correlated together? Like, that's the whole point of, do you have to? No. But I mean, knowing that information and even just simply me asking, oh, now that he's in the third line, should I move this guy into that? And the people that know hockey, there's obviously nuance in certain situations where you'll say, no, you don't have to do that because he's going to end up playing on this power play unit anyway. So yeah, he may get one less minute on extra strength and he may be in this line, but you already have the two guys that he's most likely going to score with on the power play line anyway. So don't worry about this. This isn't a big deal for your lineups. It's like, okay, it's not I know all the hockey people in the Discord are looking at me going, look at the new guy here.
Yeah, so Dane and myself, we're always in Discord. So if it's 9:45 on the East Coast and you're waiting for the 10 o'clock lines, we'll give them to you. We'll be there, so every single night, 7 days a week. So don't be afraid to ask questions and hang out with us.
RotoGrinders.com/Discord. You could join it right now. Go join the Discord. Go get, if you're a premium member, you get all the content. You get the projections, you get the ownership, you get everything. You get the statistical projections, right? Which you could use for prop betting, which is the best kept secret.
It is.
It's the best kept secret. Our NHL projections. Also free today. The fantasy pick'em tool for Prize Picks and Underdog for NHL is free today. You don't even have to be a premium member. So you could go and you could have the projections compared to the lines that are up on Prize Picks. And it'll basically show you that based on our projections, these are the win percentages for each of these props. And this is what, Tim, people don't believe me, Tim. How much do I know about hockey?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. This is I'll show the audience how I make money in hockey betting. Okay. You see these projections here? You see these tables here? I'm just going to go and I'll show you, right? We'll be very interactive. I know I'm being a little bit patronizing, but that's fine. So I'm going to go to Matt Zuccarello, less than 2.5 shots on Prize Picks. We even have the extension works. It'll overlay over there. So I'll go to Zuccarello, right? Under shots on goal, because based on our projections, right in this chart, the fantasy pick'em tool, under 2.5, less than 2.5, 62%, right? And in order to make a 5-pick on Prize Picks, you need to get props. You need to get projections that are 55% winners or better. And look how many of them we have here based on our projections. So I'll go to the top ones. Brent Burns under less than 3 shots, right? So I'm going to put that in. Burns, right? I'm going to go Burns. It's based on our projections. Elias Lindholm, less than half an assist. Okay, I'm just going to take the top ones. Do I know who Elias Lindholm is? Not necessarily. I mean, I probably rostered him at some point. Trevor Zegras. Okay, I've taken him before, more than 2. Zegras, whatever you pronounce, on Anaheim, 2. Right? And then I go, what's the next one? Kyle Connor, less than a half an assist. That's the next one. If we just go strictly by, so Connor, less than half an assist, even though you like Winnipeg today, right? So there's 5. Now, based on our projections, this should be plus EV. So, there's $30.
I love it.
Right. And we even have a prop model very similar to this that will show that for the lines that are on DraftKings and FanDuel, BetMGM. And you know what I do, Tim? After my shows this in the morning, because I'll do one on my own stream on my YouTube channel. When that's done, I grab probably a cup of coffee or a Red Bull or something, maybe some cereal, right? Something to eat. I got some McDonald's breakfast this morning after voting.
That sounds like a healthy breakfast, Blender.
Yeah, I eat very healthy. And I just go down the list and I just bet them all. And
Yeah.
then I stop, and then I wake up in the morning and I have more money typically when I wake up.
The prop model on scores and odds for hockey has been just straight fire. It's been incredible for the last like 2 seasons. So it's been pretty amazing.
Right, but people don't believe me, Tim. People think that they'll DM me. They go, "Do you have? Are there certain things you don't? What time? Whatever." It's like, dude, look at what I just did. I just went to yeah, okay, and here's 5 to get on Prize Picks. And
Right.
you go, I'll take all if whatever the numbers are that are plus EV on all of these.
Yep.
Right, I can go to the prop model. It'll show you all of them. It'll show you where to bet them, and just like there's no analysis. I don't have to know who Troy Terry is. I don't have to even know who Troy Terry. Who's Troy Terry? He's on Anaheim, right?
Yeah.
See, I got it. See, I'm learning the players, Tim. I'm learning it. Nicholas Paul, Lightning.
Yep.
He's a center he's a cheap center.
He
Tage
is.
Thompson, the Sabres.
Yeah.
Malkin's on the Penguins.
Yep.
Jake Gunsel's on the Penguins. No, he's on the Bruins.
No, Gensel's on the Penguins.
Penguins, okay. Ryan Hartman, he's on the Wild.
Yep.
Braden Point, Lightning.
Yep.
I don't know who Jared McCann is.
Kraken.
Ah, okay.
You don't need to know who he is.
Right. But you see, I want to just highlight the point of like, look, I barely know who's on what team.
Right.
Yet I'm already up like it's been like 3 weeks into the season. I'm already up like $2,000 betting on props. And remember, I'm betting like I'm betting like 20, 30 bucks like a prop.
Right.
It's not like I'm like, oh, $500 or whatever. Like, no, I'm up
right.
$2,000 just like, oh, give me the prop model. Like tonight, I may end up with like maybe 50 or 60 hockey bets.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then if I get like a 10% return and I'm betting like $2,000 in volume, on average, I wake up in the morning with like another $200 in my pocket.
Yeah, so the prop model this year in NHL is 84 and 40.
Don't tell people, Tim. Don't keep it to ourselves.
I'm 4-0 Blender.
Oh, because you just started where you are, you just recently got.
Yeah.
What books are available to you?
DraftKings and Caesars.
Okay, well, Caesars, hockey's not gonna matter for you on Caesars.
Yeah.
But DraftKings, as long as you have DraftKings for hockey, you'll be fine.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
FanDuel's numbers FanDuel doesn't put up much stuff, and their numbers are way worse than DraftKings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Caesars typically doesn't have anything. Like Caesars literally won't even have NHL props.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, it'll be way worse. Caesars typically has the worst on market of anything on any sport practically. You'll find exceptions once in a blue moon, but in general. And then BetMGM will be the other one that, like, if you're betting hockey props, I would say 80% of my props have been bet on for hockey on DraftKings, maybe like 10 to 12% on BetMGM, and like 5% on Bet365. And Bet365 is only available in like 7 states, so you probably don't even have the availability for Bet365. But Bet365 is great for NFL props. Like 80% of my NFL props are on Bet365.
They were great. They were great for home run props. Bet365.
Yes.
They were so much higher than any other book.
But you'll find that NHL for FanDuel, you're not going to find much. Now, FanDuel, when it comes to college football props, don't tell anyone, Tim, but our college football projections are doing really well.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So anything else that any tips or tricks or anything that to tell people, that especially people watching today, they've been playing NBA DFS, NFL DFS. There's nothing going on today, really. They're degenerates. That we have 100K to first, 50K to first. We got big prize pools in NHL for this 10-game slate. Some general like thoughts on like if this is your first time playing NHL DFS, what to do, what not to do, and have fun.
Yeah, try to tell yourself a story of how your lineup's going to win, right? It's kind of like stacking in baseball. It's like, and also I would say don't one-off chalky players, or more one-off contrarian players. So that's very similar to baseball. I would really think about how you play baseball, and then I would also pay attention to ownership when it comes to goalie, because goalie is a variance fest. So even if you see like the most expensive goalie is projected for the most points, it's going to be by like a point. And if that person is going to be chalky, boy, I don't know. Normally, I like to go for somebody who's lower owned and cheaper.
And you can make all your lineups in Lineup HQ if you're a premium member here at RotoGrinders. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. I just click 3-3. You could build, right? 3-3, 100%. Right. I like pairing at least one of my defensemen with each stack line, right? To get, one. And then I go through and I go, okay, am I playing Montreal? I basically click off and I go, okay, what teams am I playing? Ding, 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 ding. I said it, I typically make a lot more. If I'm making 30 lineups today, I'll make 300 in here. And I'll go through and I'll select the 30 that I want. But maybe I don't make a Kraken or maybe I don't make an Anaheim line. Maybe I don't have a Devils. Maybe I don't click on them at all. And maybe I make a little bit of everything, and then I see which ones I want to play and compare that versus ownership, and pick out the 30 that I want from my three.
Yeah, and I think I would exclude fourth liners also. Make that a rule.
A lot of times you don't even get them anyway.
Okay.
And but typically when I'm making 300, if I find something with fourth liners in it, I don't choose that lineup, right? Because I'm choosing 30 out of 300, so like 90% of the lineups I'm throwing out anyway. Right. But it's just an easy way to let me put all the configurations together, and then let me go through and peruse, right? And I'll go, okay, I'll play I don't want to play a Philly Colorado lineup. So I'll sort by Philly stacks and go, let me pick one that isn't Colorado. And then I'll go to Colorado and pick one that isn't Philly, right? And you'll find some that stick together. Obviously, you could set up groups and stuff to prevent that type of stuff. But if this is your first time playing, if you're new to this, just build a whole bunch of lineups in Lineup HQ, and then just go through and pick one. Okay, this one seems pretty good. So take it and save the ones that you want, and there you go.
I'm very curious to see where Philly comes in with ownership. I would really want to see how much people actually, play them.
And then they'll be 30+% owned, and Tim, they're going to score 10 goals.
Right. I've been on them the last 2 games and done quite well, but now I'm worried that I should get off of them, because ownership's going to be inflated so much.
Well, you only play one lineup though.
I do.
Right. So when you have 100% of someone, it's because you're only playing one line. It's not like me. I'm playing 30 lineups.
Right.
I can still play I could still have 5. I still will have some.
Yes.
Right. You have to make the decision of, do I play a Phillies lineup at all?
Right. But you still have to make the decision of, do I want to be over or under? You still have, over the field or under the field. That's still a decision that you have to make making 30 lineups.
Right. I don't know. Let's see what the ownership. I'll have to wait until the ownership projections come in.
Yeah.
Get a sense. So, Tim, people could find you. I know you don't tweet that often, but I think people could find you more often in the RotoGrinders Discord and the hockey channel.
You can, pretty much anywhere on the Discord. Definitely in NHL Discord. I'm always around. So definitely
Tasteful Tides, right? Tasteful Tides. People tag
Tasteful Tides. Yep.
Tasteful Tides. And you can find me on Twitter at BlenderHD. In the Discord as well, I have my own channel, Blender's Game Theory. So if you want to talk to me anytime, that's the place to go. We got no Grinders Live. There's no NBA today, right? It's election day. Go out and vote, right? Go out and vote, and then play. We got Champions League soccer. We do have soccer projections here. So if you want to play the 3 p.m. Eastern Champions League slate, come. The lineups will come in at 2:00 in the afternoon Eastern. You go to the soccer channel. Obviously, all the projections will get updated, and you could play. You could ask me questions about soccer if you want. So join us there.
I'm going to play that today, just because you're playing hockey. I'm going to play soccer.
Right. Okay, you're going to play soccer? Okay,
Yeah.
let me give you a rundown of what the soccer slate is.
Okay.
Your Man City and Atletico Madrid, like essentially your lineup may, the chalkiest lineup is going to have like 5 Man City players in it, especially if Haaland doesn't start.
Okay.
Because Man City are the biggest favorite, but Atletico Madrid is a big favorite. Porto's a big favorite. Like you're probably playing, a Julian Alvarez and the Mateus Nunes lineup with David Raum of Leipzig in the defender spot at 6,800. Like you'll see you're playing a soccer slate that is like the big team versus minnow type of slate, where like very similar to the San Jose Sharks. Like there may be like one team that scores 6 goals.
Right.
Everyone knows what that team is or what those
Right.
two teams are. And if you could find the goals in these other games that are closer, that have lower totals, like they're going to be like 5% owned because everyone else is going to be like.
Do we do ownership for Champions League?
Yes, but it's so dynamic. I don't like speaking bad about like our stuff, but picture trying to do NBA ownership projections between 6 and 7 when 14 pieces of news. Like that's essentially what soccer lineups when they come. Like, dude, you could do that if you could predict the exact 11s of all the teams, but these teams are playing midweek, and you'll just notice that they rotated fullbacks, or they were, and this fullback DraftKings mispriced at 2,700 instead of 5,000. So let me tell you, he's going to be really chalky, even though it says right now he's only 2% owned. It's like, no, he's going to be like 32% owned, right? And that's going to affect all the ownership of everything else.
Your edge in soccer is a lot like your edge in basketball. It's like last minute stuff, last minute adjustments. Okay.
Right. Adjusting to last minute.
I'm dead money then. I'm definitely
will update based on that, but there's still a lot of nuance. A mean projection in soccer, I mean, 2 people could have the same mean, and one like both these guys project for 8. And it's like, one guy scores about 6 to 8 like every game, and this other guy scores either 2 or 30. So it's like, they're both 8 means, but they play different positions. Like I don't see this defensive midfielder, like scoring 2 goals today. Like he scored 2 goals in the past 4 years. He'll get you a bunch of tackles. One will get you, but like if you're looking for a goal at that price, but you want to play that $4,800 guy that may come, his mean is lower because all he does is touch the ball last. So either he's going to score on 1 shot or 2 shots. And then also he doesn't play 90 minutes. So they're probably going to come off at like the 62nd minute. So you better get that goal early for that price. So it's like, those are the things that you don't see in the actual, like the numbers, but you can't really go wrong. If you just played based on our soccer projections, you're not going to make bad lineups, but you may not make the most sensible, like kind of logical-ish. I'm going to look at some of those lineups and go, this really doesn't make that much sense, right? You'd much rather play this guy with that guy.
You got to tell yourself a story, right? Just like I said in hockey. Right.
Yes, you got to tell yourself a story.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get out of here. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. We'll do an NFL Week 10 preview tomorrow, but have fun playing NHL DFS tonight. I will be. Let's someone in the Discord, someone that's watching, hopefully me, winning 100,000. More likely, hopefully me. If it's not me, it should be someone else that's out there listening. But good luck, and I will be back tomorrow as always. Weekdays, 11 o'clock in the morning, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props and pick 'em on RotoGrinders Today.